Welcome back to another week of Honey from the Word. This weekend is Labor Day weekend. And in honor of Labor Day weekend, I want my devotion to center around that. So today's devotion is titled Busyness from Luke chapter 10, verses 38 through 42. Now it happened as they went that he entered a certain village, and a certain woman named Martha welcomed him into her house. And she had a sister called Mary, who also sat at Jesus' feet and heard his word. But Martha was distracted with much serving. And she approached him and said, Lord, do you not care that my sister has left me to serve alone? Therefore tell her to help me. And Jesus answered and said to her, Martha, Martha, you are worried and troubled about many things, but one thing is needed, and Mary has chosen that good part, which will not be taken away from her. Labor Day in the United States is a public holiday that is celebrated on the first Monday of September. It honors the American labor movement and the continuations or contributions that workers have made to the strength, prosperity, laws, and well-being of the country. It's the Monday of the long weekend known as Labor Day weekend, and it's considered to be the unofficial end of summer in the United States. So in honor of Labor Day, I want to talk to you about the subject of busyness. In case you haven't figured it out yet, we are a busy people. We are busy with our jobs. 86% of men and 60% of women in the United States work an average of more than 40 hours a week. Yet most workers feel they never have enough time to get anything done. Only 57% of Americans use all of their allotted vacation time. This causes emotional problems. CNN, in a 6-year study of 2,500 workers, those who worked 11-hour days were 2.5 times more likely to become depressed than those who worked 8-hour days. We're not getting enough sleep. Sleep deprivation causes obesity, diabetes, and depression. More than 1/3 of all working adults get fewer than 6 hours of sleep a night. That's over 40 million people with sleep deprivation. The average American gets 2.5 fewer hours of sleep per night than they did a century ago. A New York Times article talks about how our smartphones and computers ensure that we are never really away from things. Vacations used to be like an off switch, but now because of technology, it's more like a dimmer switch. At some point, the standard answer to "How are you doing?" changed from "Fine" and "Thanks" to "Busy." In the scripture I read, Jesus tells a story about busyness. Many commentators have suspected that you have two very clear personality types here. Martha, who is task-oriented, Mary, who is people-oriented. Just be with Jesus. That may be true, but I don't think Jesus is here trying to indicate that he prefers the Mary personality best. He created both personality types, and he has a purpose for both. You see, the world usually values Marthas. Marthas are considered to be great Christians because they're so busy doing things in church. What's more, Marthas usually value themselves and consider themselves to be great Christians. So let's look at the myth that Jesus shatters here. Busyness equals faithfulness is the myth. Many of us like to be busy because then we feel important. We feel needed. For many people, busyness makes us feel faithful to God. Look, God, I'm tired. I'm burned out. I've got nothing left in the tank. I've given everything I've got for you. Somehow that makes us feel important and more spiritual than others. And this story shows us that that's just not true. Next, let's look at the fear he confronts. What drives Martha's busyness? Fear. See where it shows she is anxious in verse 41? It's not going to get done. Everyone will think poorly of me. Jesus will think poorly of me, and that's embarrassing. When God comes over for dinner, toothpaste spot should not be on the mirror. The toilet should be flushed. Shouldn't be sending someone out to Bojangles to pick up chicken. Martha says you can't do that for the Son of God. You can't serve him leftovers. You can't have Jesus show up and say, well, it's bow time. Some of us are always trying to please people. Some of you can't say no because you want to be liked by everyone. So you stay as busy as you possibly can. In trying to earn God's approval, you collapse from all of the busyness. You completely burn out and say, there it is, God. I am my own burnt offering. So what does Jesus say? Martha, Martha, come be with me. First of all, his approval is a gift and doesn't need to be earned. That should be liberating. You don't have to stay busy to win his approval. That doesn't mean you should be lazy, but busyness is not necessary to gain his approval. Second, Jesus said, all that you're striving for is in me. I am the bread of life. Third, I am omnicompetent, so you don't need to be. You can't be everything to everybody, but guess what? I can. So the question is not what needs to be done. The question is, what does he want me to do? Because the reality is, you can't do it all. Go sit at the feet of Jesus. Find your sufficiency in him. And then do what he tells you. You see, if Jesus had said to Mary, go get me a cup of water, don't you think she would have done that? Do what he tells you to do, and then don't worry about tomorrow. See, Matthew 6:34 says, therefore, do not worry about tomorrow, for tomorrow will worry about its own things. Sufficient for the day is its own trouble. Jesus gives to us the greatest problem with our busyness. The great danger of busyness is that it keeps us from the feet of Jesus. Martha, Martha, you're worried and troubled about many things, but one thing is needed. See, people get so busy to go to church, or they're too busy for God, they don't have time to take care of their own soul or their relationship to God. If we as Christians aren't careful, we will do the same thing. In conclusion, I want you to think about this. What do you do with your time shows what you really believe. How you spend your time each day is how you spend your life. Because your life is essentially a series of days. How are you spending your life? If we looked at your calendar, what would we see that you prize most and pursue most? What you prize the most is what you pursue the hardest. So be busy. But don't be so busy that you don't have time for the things of God. May the Lord bless you during this Labor Day weekend.